can't let the 2022 draft cycle without talking about the 2023 draft, right? We have our best prospects, so you know Coach G is back to break down all of those guys. Oh, yeah. It's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And when I'm not on the mic, not on the air, you can catch up with me on Twitter at South Exclusives. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. They have you covered with more odds, props, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, the draft cycle has started and it has ended. So let's be done with 2022 and let's look forward to 2023. I hope y'all didn't think y'all was going to get rid of Coach G that easy. He's back to talk about the best 2023 HBCU draft prospects. Before we get to the players that actually made the list, I want to ask you about Isaiah Land, who did just enter the transfer portal and does not look like he's coming back to FAMU. How did the news of his departure affect your making of the list?
Well, for my defensive line or edge rusher list, I had he was ranked number 3. I had him not too far behind. Well, for my defensive line, Jordan Lewis, Jordan Lewis has still been my favorite guy. I like Jordan Lewis a lot. And then before Jordan Lewis, it was kind of between Jablonski from South Carolina State, and then I kind of was tweening between Darian Brokenberg as well. I think we spoke about off camera about those guys before, but Jablonski, Green, and Jordan Lewis. And, well, Josh Pryor was tied technically for 3rd. Him and Land kind of flip-flop. I know people probably wondering why Land wouldn't be number 1, but, you know, there's more to defensive line play than rushing the passer. And I'm big on that, even as a D-line trainer. You know I could show them all the cross-chopping and spinning and running around and all that, but if you can't run through somebody's chest with your hands and your elbows locked out and you squeeze down the B gap, if you're trying to go against the ISO, you can't go play against a double team, then, you know, it's kind of hard for me to throw you up there number 1. Now, I will say Jordan Lewis was just that good. I mean, you know, before Land, the year before that, it's just crazy how, you know, HBCU pass rushers just take over the Buck Buchanan Award, but whatever. So yeah, I mean, it just shows that Jordan Lewis and Land are pretty similar. Land's a little longer. He's about 6'5", a little slender build, 215. I think Jordan Lewis maybe around 215, 220, maybe a little bigger, a little shorter. But my list is pretty much the same. And it gives other opportunities to other guys that I may have missed. But I know the list I have now is pretty strong.
So you talked about Jordan Lewis winning that Buck Buchanan Award, and he did win it the season before Isaiah Land. What did you see in that Buck Buchanan Award winning season out of your number 1 player on this list, Jordan Lewis out of Southern University?
I just want to say I'm so glad Jordan Lewis didn't leave Southern University. Think of it like this, right? The young man that just got drafted to the Chicago Bears out of Southern, they used to go back and forth and practice together almost every day. So you know that the work was there. They were going to get some good work. But just keep it very simple. Jordan Lewis, his comparison to me right now, I not to say he is this guy, but I'm just saying due to the body type and how he plays, for me, Jordan Lewis, he's Vaughn. You look at him, that's the build. He's a Von Miller build guy. He's a speed rusher. His bend is immaculate. You could tell that young man has some strong ankles because he's able to bend the corner. He has a really good dip and rip. It's a very simple move, but when you just that fast and you have that kind of quick twitch and ability, and So when it comes to certain speed rushes, sometimes you just got to pick a spot. So what Von Miller is really good at is he picks a spot in the backfield and he just runs faster than the offensive lineman can move backwards. Not saying he has a full repertoire. He has every move that was ever created. Not taking that from him. But he's not a power rusher, just like Jordan Lewis. He's not a power rusher, but when he gets bigger and he gets a little stronger, as he has over years, he's going to start transitioning that speed to power. So now you rushing the guy outfield. Now you make the offensive lineman's shoulders turn to the point where I would like to call 50-50 or the feet are even, and they're not as strong anymore. So now even if you're like slight build like Von Miller was, I think it's about 240. Your slight build, half of a 300-pound man is less than all of you. So if you use that speed to power and you knock him back, you get a lot of sacks just from collapsing the pocket. He has I saw Jordan Lewis do a ghost rush before, which is a really good move. And to explain people what a ghost rush is,
Please do. Yes, please do.
So what I would tell my D lineman is, you want to do a ghost rush, you'll set it up. So the setup would be either a long arm or a stab. A long arm is where you just take your inside hand and you press it into the chest plate or the mesh, I'll call, between the shoulder and the chest of the offensive lineman, and you put the thumb up and you press him back and you lean all your weight into half of his body, collapse the pocket. So you set it up with that. Then now you have the offensive lineman like, okay, so once he sees that hand, he's going to reach out. He's going to want to engage because he doesn't want to get knocked back. So he's going to go forward. And what do you do when you go forward? You take that hand, you point that hand out to make it look like you're going to do a long arm or a stab. Then you bring the hand right back and you dip right under their hands when they shoot. So you shoot your hand out. Offensive lineman shoots his hands out like here. You dip under it, which Jordan Lewis has a really good bend. Sometimes we just call it grabbing grass. Sometimes you just run to a spot, like I said earlier. You grab some grass. You turn that inside ankle in. Boom. Directly to the quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if Jordan Lewis hits a 4.4, 4.5 40 when his pro day comes, because he's gonna have a great pro day. He's gonna have a bounce back year. In my personal opinion, it's hard when you're number one guy in the country. I mean, yeah, and when you're at the top, sometimes you may have a little fall off, but end of the day, the intangibles are there for that young man. So he's number one on my list because when it comes to just pure edge rushing, and I saw him go against teams that like to run the ball a lot. He's not a liability against the run, but his pass rushing is so good, and his run stopping is good enough to where, I have to put him number one on my list.
I was interested with, how did Isaiah Land's departure impact this list? Because I know he would have been pretty high. I had to ask that question in particular. And going forward, we're going to be talking about some more people that are in that top 10 list. I want to know about a young guy who, he's not a draft prospect, but he was sent in that list. I got to know about him. But first, let me tell you about BetOnline, because BetOnline is the best place for all of your sports wagering. Listen, I don't care if it's the NBA playoffs. I don't care if it's the NFL draft is passed, but maybe you want to do some NFL futures. Who's going to win the NFC East this year? Because the Philadelphia Eagles, as much as I hate to say it, have really built themselves up this year in this offseason and look like they might be a contender. We have to look out for it. Now, if you want to talk about the playoffs, you want to talk about the MLB, trust they have all of that. You want to talk about UFC, there's a big time event going on this Saturday. I'm excited for that. We can bet on all of that on betonline.net. But if that's not your forte, don't forget they also have your favorite Vegas casino games, literally anything that you could think of. Betonline.net is the best because they are the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so we keep on rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every day. You know that I appreciate it. And I have to ask Coach G about this one player who isn't a part of the HBCU draft class, but he warranted enough respect from him to be put on this list. And then also, what is the best position in this draft class? We're looking real early, right? But I still got to know these answers. So we have a lot of players on this list. You sent me 11 guys, right? And we kind of made it into a top 10 with an extra guy who we will talk about in a little bit. But I want to ask you, what is the strength of this HBCU draft class that's upcoming? See, in 2022, I felt like it was the defensive backs because you had Durant, Williams, Bell, Adams. You had those guys. But in 2023, what is that position group that is the strongest for HBCUs?
Well, I'm gonna try to be I'm gonna try to not be so typical.
Oh, we know what that means.
Okay, yeah. So
we know what that means. Go ahead and tell them the D-line. Go ahead and
I
tell them how
mean,
D-line's greatest.
Jordan Lewis, Joshua Pryor, Darian Brokenberg, Jablonski Green. I mean, I believe Ronnie Thomas out of Mississippi Valley State is going to be a junior next year. So, I mean, he might be draft eligible too. I mean, this pass rushing defensive line class is immaculate. And just to put this out here, Dumas from Prairie View, I know he just hit the portal. I use him as an example to my guys. And I coach some D linemen that are about 5'11", 5'11 and a half, 6 foot even. Me personally, I don't care if my nose guards are tall. Who cares? I just need you to be a fire hydrant. Don't get moved. Dumas, if he was 6'2", if he was just 6'1", Dumas would be number one on my list, hands down. You've seen him play because you know you went. You're swag. When it comes to just violence, I just want to put this out because he's in the portal now. But I just want to just show love because I feel like there are people who really don't show this brother love because he's small. I think they list him at what 5'10", 235 pounds, which I don't believe.
Not a big guy.
It's just like, but when you watch him play, even when he gets really good competition, he was successful. Now, will the league look at him as a nose guard? It's hard, but I have to give him props where it's due. So I just want to put that out there before I go too far. I want to put that out there. Dumas, wishing you the best, brother.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that the HBCUs produce really good linemen, and they produce, I don't know, what would you say? Maybe receivers. But I know what we're really good at creating are good big guys. That's what seems to get drafted the most. I mean, this year was a little more of an outlier because, as we all know, my top three were, 3 D-backs. But outside of that, HBCUs produce really good defensive and offensive linemen. I think the past few drafts of the HBCU players were involved. There was at least one lineman out of every one out of HBCU players. At least one lineman got drafted. One guy is drafted as high as the first round, and he's actually got his 5th-year option just picked up for the Texans. So I'm always going to lean on my big guys because the big guys, well, there is no team without the big guys. That's why the big guys are the only ones to be in the GOAT conversation because we don't need anybody else to make us look good. But that's a whole other thing.
Okay.
So yes. Our position.
I'm gonna cut you off there because I already see where this is going. It's about to turn into a big guy advocacy program. But I want to ask you about a guy who isn't a big guy. So please forgive me. But it's Jada Byers, and he was a guy he's a running back. What did he do? Because he's not draft eligible. What did he do to rank number 7 when we just talking about players to watch after just a freshman year? Just 1 year, G. Just 1 year.
I'm going to be very honest. I don't know how my alma mater got this kid. Jada Byers is the best running back in Black college football, hands down. Not even close. It's it's so crazy. I thought he was like a redshirt freshman or something like that, And I looked, I was like, no, this guy's true. So I put him on the list. I'm like, okay, he was a redshirt freshman. Okay, he'd be a redshirt sophomore next year. Okay, he may be. I think that you get eligible as a redshirt. You could be eligible as a redshirt sophomore. I think it's 3 years. But this guy's a true freshman. But I'm going to show him love because me and Malik at Draft HBCU, we love this kid. We love this kid. Him and his teammate Charles Hall, who is the best wide receiver in HBCU football, and they both go to Virginia Union. It just so happens to be that way. Not because I'm a Union grad, but whatever. Jada Byers. I think there was a game in high school where I think he scored it was either he scored double-digit touchdowns in one game or some crazy stat in high school. I don't know how Virginia Union got this kid. When I could tell you, if they threw him the ball more out of the backfield, he's Tariq Cohen realm when it comes to playing running back. He has a low center of gravity. He's so strong. The first guy usually doesn't get him down. And I've seen him get hit by D tackles. I've seen him get hit by everybody. And one thing CIAA will have is some big, huge guys in the middle. They usually do. Everybody else might be a little small. The linebackers might be a little slighter. Those interior guys, big. Jada Byers is bouncing off of them. Oh, linebackers can't catch him. Oh, and then he's just too strong and too agile for some safeties and corners as well. So he needs more opportunities out of the backfield catching the ball to really highlight his full skill set. Now that's where I think. So for my two, it's him and Quarles. Him and Quarles are like my two favorite running backs. Now I'm a big guy. I like big guys, but I don't like my running backs big. It's weird, whatever that may be. But I like the low center of gravity. Like I tell you, I think he has really good hands. I watched him in spring game practice. I really like Jada Byers. He has the breakaway speed. He has a quick twitch. I like that word, quick twitch, because he's able to break on it, stop on a dime, break left, right, wherever you want to go backwards, go back forward. He might go down if he stays there for 3. If he stays in Union for 3 years, he's going to probably break records because, well, let's be real. Union always produce really good running backs. I mean, even when our down years, we always had. I mean, I think I think like within a 5-year span, we had a guy go CFL. Another guy who really had an opportunity to go CFL, NFL, but COVID kind of messed up his situation. Felt bad for him. But Union always had good running backs, so it kind of doesn't surprise me. But I really just don't know how they got Jada Byers. Jada Byers is, and I'm not saying that Jada. If you hear this, that does not mean leave. Okay, you stay your butt at Virginia Union, and you become the first Virginia Union running back drafted. Because I know you're that good. I know you're that good. You're only going to get bigger, faster, stronger. I want you to get drafted out of Union, okay? I just need it to happen. I think you'll be the first one since Pete Hunter, I believe, was the last guy drafted out of Union. He went to Pete Hunter played for the Cowboys. I believe is the last guy. I could be wrong. That's on top of my head. I'll correct it later. But, yeah, man, I'm all in on Jada Byers. Hands down, best running back, HBCU football across SWAC, SEAC, you name it. That's him. He's the guy.
That's a bold statement. But now I feel like I set this up perfectly for you. I allow you to go from talking about a Union guy to talking about your big guys. I know that you're happy about this. And let's talk about one of the big guys out of Bowie State. Jada Byers is by far, hands down, the best running back in all of HBCU football. That's a bold take. That's an explosive take. It's one that I'm glad I stopped him from just going on and on about the big guys. We know he'll talk for everybody's big fellas. And I stopped him and we got that take. I greatly appreciate it. Now we are going to get to the big fellas. Let's talk about some of the big guys that have made the list. Mainly Joshua Pryor and Darian Brokenberg. All right, so we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU. We're talking about the big fellas, and this is right in his wheelhouse. This is his absolute expertise. We always bring him in for the scouts take, but when he gets to talk about the pass rushers, the edge guys, the interior guys, anybody on that defensive line, this is really where Coach G shines. And now we get to talk about a guy out of Bowie State and a guy out of Howard, both of which have been dominating on their respective playing fields. Because Bowie State is known for their defense. And Joshua Pryor he's just been penetrating since he was a freshman. 20 tackles for a loss as a freshman and has never dropped below that threshold. How does he do it? How does he make such an impact on the game, whether that's through the pass or through the run?
I didn't know he was that big. Josh is not small at all. Josh is a big guy. And it's funny because they probably would have had the best tandem in Black college sports when it comes to just, two edge rushers that are just really, really, really good. Jonathan Ross hit the portal. Now he's going to University of South Florida. That hurt. Yeah. That hurt. Jonathan Ross, he had every accolade you could think of. Every accolade you think of. He wasn't as big, but even people don't think Jonathan Ross is pretty big too. People didn't really. He's big. He's a big kid. He looked me in my eye. He's a little taller than me. Jonathan Ross might be a little about 6'3", 6'4". Pryor is bigger than that. Pryor has really strong hands. Pryor is just disruptive. Pryor has that great get off, and with his strength, you could tell when he hits people, he rolls all his hips. So when we teach D-line, you got to roll your hips. When you get you get your hands on, you extend your arms out, you roll your hips into the guy. He is phenomenal at that. And when you watched him in the playoffs, last year. You could just see he just asserted his will on the offensive tackles. I saw it was beautiful. I even think they should kick him more inside sometime. Kick him to the 3. I mean, it's D2, it's CIAA, and even when they played against Delaware State, it don't matter. The kid could just ball. I'll put him everywhere if I was Bowie State. I'll just put him here, 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 here. And I love what Bowie has done, over the past year. I'm a Unionite, but I keep it real. We can't beat him. I mean, we can't beat him. And the guy I love so much, I was talking about Jada Byers. Of course, his worst game was Bowie State. Yeah. So, I mean, that speaks volumes because Jada was running over everybody. I think Jada had 12 touchdowns. But when you have a defense that's led by a guy like Joshua Pryor, who shows the physicality, who shows that. I thought he was going to come out this year. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was going to come out. I was like, why isn't he invited to any of these bowl games? I haven't seen him with anything. I'm like, what's going on with Pryor? But he said he's coming back. And then I found out him and Ross going to keep coming back again. I said, you ain't have a shot. We ain't never going to win the thing, CIAA. So then I was like, oh, and then I found out that Ross was leaving. I'm like, oh. But then again, Bowie recruits like crazy, so they're probably going to replace Ross with another 6'4", 6'5", 260-pound defensive end playing D2 football. I don't know how they do it, but they found a way to do it.
They do it, man. They do it.
They do it. And, Jonathan, Pryor is, he's like right now, of course, he moved up. He's like number 3 on my list. He flip-flops number 2 and 3 on my list, but I have no doubt in my mind that this guy has every shot to play the next level. All he has to do is just keep doing what he's been doing for the past 3-4 years. The guy is that good. I think for him, watching his tape, I think if he utilizes push-pull more, if he utilizes long arm more, and if he utilizes a little more, some more inside move counters, I think he will really go to the next level. But he could do that. That's not a big deal. They have a good defensive line coach at Bowie State. They had a great defensive coordinator at Bowie State, but he ended up leaving, going to Alabama State. But that just doesn't leave you. So, I mean, I know Josh is doing his thing. I've checked in and, heard good things about him. So I'm good. I'm comfortable with having him in my top 5 when it comes to defensive linemen. I'm comfortable having him in my top 10 when it comes to draft eligible guys. He's number 4 on my list right now.
One guy that just narrowly missed the top 5 is Darian Brokenberg. And he was a second-team All-MEAC player last year, but you have him as your number 6 overall HBCU prospect coming out. What makes you so confident that he's going to take a jump? Because, there's a jump between second-team conference and being nearly top 5 of all HBCUs. Mm-hmm. Where's that confidence coming from for you?
The confidence is coming from me being, me just loving guys that actually love to play the run. Because, everybody just see, I don't like my D lineman at my school now. I'm telling them right now, if you run past blocks, you run upfield 4 or 5 yards against everybody, just go. Don't even look at me. Go to the sideline. We're not doing that. Because I'm not gonna waste my breath yelling at you about that. You have to see pass rushing. You get away with it just being a fast guy. You run around the guy. Oh, you get a sack. Woo. It takes a lot to really take another 300-pound grown man and you push him against a way he doesn't want to go, and he can't do anything about it. And that's broken, bro. When I watched every Howard game because they were on TV. So I was like, sure, let's rock it. And I was like, he stuck out. I sent one tweet and I wrote his name in all caps. I don't know why I did that. It was really weird. I wrote his name in all caps. I said, I was like, Darian Brokenberg. I'm like, and then, and I searched his name. I'm like, why is no one talking about this kid? He's big. He's a big kid. And I saw he won at Howard. I think he won something like a weight room award. Like apparently he's been killing in the weight room, which I don't. He has big legs, big arms, big chest. He's just a big specimen, and he likes to play the run. And he stops the run effectively, and you can see once he stops the run effectively, it gets him going. And then once he wants to rush the passer, he can do it. He's more like I think he could be, if he really focuses in, he could be an all-around guy, but right now he's more of a power rusher, which is nothing wrong with that because he's such a big guy. He's kind of similar to him and Deshaun Dixon are kind of similar. Okay. Those big built guys, big, big, but you could tell he's flexible. You could tell he has good ankle strength. I think his hip flexibility could get a little better, but you could tell he hits the weights. Not gonna lie, the kid he's probably gonna be one of those guys that throw up 225, probably about 20 plus 25 times the combine. If he's ever so fortunate, which I feel he will be, because hey, he's gonna be the best defensive lineman on the field in most games in the MEAC. Maybe outside of the South Carolina State game, and that's when I'm always hype up my boy Jablonski Green, because now I'm not gonna give his comp yet. I'm not gonna give Jablonski Green's comp yet, but I have a perfect comp for him. And when I drop it, people be like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah," and we all know.
I'm looking forward.
Yeah. So I mean, Darren Brokenberg, it's not a huge jump for me because the intangibles are there. Now, hopefully, people are hearing me and listening to him. I'm like, listen, this kid is really good. But you jump on him now. This kid is good. So he'll be a first team All MEAC guy. I'll doubt in my mind. I'll predict that now. He'll be in the Legacy Bowl. And, matter of fact, let's just call a spade a spade. When they play Alabama State, just watch. Just watch. I promise you, he's going to show everybody why he's as you can see, he's number 6 on my list. He will be a guy that, will be a priority free agent signing, a draft pick. He will be that guy. And thank God, look what's going to happen next year. XFL. The kid's going to be on someone's pro roster. And I look forward to watching him. And I'm so glad I watched. It was a game versus Sacred Heart. That was that was like the second, third game I watched him play. And that's why I was like, yeah, that's it. I like him. Single digit, too. So you're supposed to be good, right? You wear single digit. Okay, here we go.
You gotta have some confidence if you're a big guy rocking a single digit.
So I'm saying.
You gotta show it.
That's what I'm saying.
It's law. I don't make that up. That's law. If you're gonna be a big guy wearing a single digit, you got a ball. It's just that simple. You named Dumas earlier. I think Pryor's a single digit now. If he wasn't last year, I think he's going to. I think that's what I'm hearing. And now you got Brokenberg. Those are all 3 single digit guys and 3 guys that you hold in high esteem. It's law, man. It's law. I appreciate you coming on here, man. I told him last week it was 2.5 months. Now we're at 2 months, 3 weeks. We're almost at 3 months doing this. It's been a blast. We knew we were gonna do it. That's why I ain't do the whole spiel last week. But I do appreciate you coming on here and giving the expertise and giving the scouts take in a way that nobody else could do it. Just know you are appreciated for the contributions here. And we'll get you back on. We're not going to wait until draft season before we link back up. That's for sure.
My brother, I appreciate that, man. Just pray for me. Recruiting season is killing me. Got all these coaches coming to my school, recruiting my boys. I'm just tired. But
I know it.
We're going to make it work. Oh, shout out. I got my first kid. I got my first HBCU offer with one of my kids here in Brooklyn.
Give a name. Can we get a name?
My boy, Precious Eke. He just got he's got an offer to Delaware State. He's a 6'4", 285-pound, 3 technique, 4-eyed nose guard. Really,
you gotta send me his info, man. You gotta send me his Twitter and whatnot. I'm about to tweet it out right now when we get off here.
You the man, brother. I appreciate it.
No doubt, man. Tell him I said congratulations. And you take care, my guy.
Thank you, man. I'll holler at you.
For sure. I absolutely loved bringing this to you guys for 11 weeks. Oh my, this has been so much fun for me, just getting the scouts take every single Thursday. So let's show love to not just Coach G, but then also Draft HBCU, because they've been putting out some great content. We've got to get them back on the show, and you'll know when we get them back on here if you continue making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And we got some news about Isaiah Land. He didn't make the list. We talked about him, but he didn't make the list because he has entered the transfer portal and he has dropped his top schools. We'll talk about that tomorrow, as long as he hasn't already made a decision by then. And if so, we'll talk about the decision that he made and where he fits at the school that he decided to transfer to. Now, for your second listen of the day, I'm a conference show. We have some other around the nation, around the network. Go check out Locked On ACC with Candace Cooper. All right. She is one of the best out there doing it. Y'all have seen her on the show, friend of the show. Go tap in with her content as well on Locked On ACC. And if you're looking for me in the meantime, in between time, you can find me on that blue app, that bird. Yes, Twitter at South Exclusives. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.